Hiya. I'm sorry to see you. I'm sure if you're here, you're probably frantically trying to find a way to sleep, and I've been there so many times. So many times. I've been there trying to look at ambient music, looking at studies in the middle of night as the time keeps ticking down. All things kind of being, well, a dud. Some things being a dud. But I'm here to tell you how I, for the first time in many, many years, actually can sleep relatively when I want to, wake up at the same time I can every day, and the method of how you can do that. Now, but before we get into that, I would like to kind of talk about the journey and the craziness of, and I'm sure the journey that most of you have probably went on too, of the woeful holy grail of sleep, which is to say, very hard to find, and honestly, I think shrouded in misdirected results and inferences of what you should do and how you should do it and why you should potentially do it. So if you're willing to listen to a random stranger, good old Canadian on the other side of the pond, rant about such a thing, then I would love to have you. So let's get into it. So, just to be a little selfish, my journey with sleep has always been awful. First of all, I have, and this is going to be different for a lot of people, of course. Some people have different levels of things in their mind. Some people have an abundance of stress. Some people have an abundance of thought in general, like imagination that gets kickstarted. And unfortunately, that one's mine. Mine is, as soon as I close my eyes, I feel like all it takes is the slightest little drop of a story or a thing, and my brain becomes a wildfire and I can't sleep. And in fact, I overheat because my brain is working so hard, and I get headaches as soon as I close my eyes. A little unfortunate, but anyways, so that's something I've had to contend with my entire life. But I feel like now I finally have a pretty good ground about what works, what is misguided, but still good information, but attacks the wrong problem. And yes, and again, at the end of the day, you're half asleep, you're tired, you're annoyed, and you're finding this video. So alas, if all the information sounds like a bunch of wish-wash, hogwash bullshit, then by all means, forget about it. But I would ask that you at least try some of the things that I'm going to mention, specifically the last thing. But let's get to it. So one of the things I've constantly heard information, things that people have told me to do, and that I've tried them, is regarding when you wake up and when you go to sleep. Now, I actually found the best information, and what I think is really relevant is it's not about when you go to sleep, but when you wake up, okay? It's not about when you go to sleep, but it's about when you wake up, because your body is incredible. Your body will adapt to what you give it. So, if you end up going to sleep at 4 a.m., really late, and you wake up and you're feeling super groggy and super tired, and maybe because it's the weekend, you roll back over, you get a couple more winks of rest. The reason why that's bad is because that communicates to your body that you can do the thing that you just did. Your body is smarter than you give it credit for, and because you've let yourself sleep again, your body says, oh, okay, it's not a negative to not go to sleep when I want to go to sleep, because we can always make up for that ground. And if I'm being rewarded with stimulus and a dopamine and interesting things, then it's going to be like, okay, this is time well spent. So it's not even like you're sitting there bored out of your mind, not doing anything and not getting any sort of relief, because most people try to find a way to entertain themselves in the downtime, which therefore immediately cannibalizes your body's ability to understand why it should be sleeping when you're rewarding it. That's a part of what we're going to get into about actual things. But again, if you wake up at the same time every single day, and it's going to suck. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be good, because the first day, awful, because you're going to be going on basically 4 hours of sleep. Super not good. Try to do this on the weekend when you don't really need to be a functioning human being, okay? Do this on the weekend. Try to get your sleep schedule on the same time every day. Now, that is significantly harder than I'm making it sound, and I'm aware of that. So, here's some strategies. At the end of the day, one of the biggest things and one of the amazing things to learn in life is that you need to find a way to make it work. So, I'll help you with the parts of this process, but you need to understand what motivates you. You need to understand how to get up out of your bed when it's the coziest, warmest place in the world and when you are so tired. You need to find out how you can motivate yourself to do that. Here's some strategies that work for me. First of all, have multiple alarms. It's the classic, 8 a.m., 8:01 a.m., 8:02 a.m. Make it so it's hard for you to fail. At the end of the day, Another thing in life is you want to make it hard for you to fail and easy for you to succeed. So make it so it is really, really, really hard for you to fail. Okay? Now here's the other bad news. You are going to need to get up consistently for a long time for your body to find this adaptation, especially if you've conditioned it with the whole dopamine thing like I've said. Which is simply like watching something interesting and stimulating before you've went to bed. I know this is not great information. I'll explain why. You can have your cake, but just don't eat it too soon. And no, you cannot eat it 2 hours before you go to sleep. 10 minutes is all it takes. I'm asking for 10 minutes before you go to bed to get bored, essentially. But anyways, we'll talk about that towards the end. The whole multiple alarms is a great way to motivate yourself, because eventually you'll get annoyed. You'll end up having to open up your alarms and turn them all off, which at least is something for you to kind of be motivated to do, okay? The one thing that helped me, though, as me knowing me and how I am motivated, was my goal was very simple. As soon as my alarm goes off, I have to get up, take a pencil, and I actually have it right here. It's kind of across my room, but it's just a sticky note which has a bunch of squares on it and says wake up at 8 a.m. So I get up and I have to literally scratch off one of those, and then I can literally sit down and go back to sleep. Except I never needed to, because as soon as I got out of my cozy little cocoon and actually wrote down something and thought, I did it. I did the baseline thing. I didn't want to go to sleep. I wanted to go brush my teeth, finish, and start the day and get a couple more hours of function in. And also see if this did work. The thing that people told me forever that I always thought, I can skirt around this. I can find out a way to attack this in a better way, which was functionally not doing credit to people's actual suggestion. So I did it for a whole month, and it does work very, very well, specifically in combination with other things, which we'll talk about later. But yes, this is a great way to motivate yourself. But like I said, we want to make it hard to fail and easy to succeed. So one of the ways, I think it's a bulletproof idea, is before you go to sleep, get a thermos, a cup. I say a thermos because it will isolate the smell of coffee. Put it right beside your bed filled with coffee. And as soon as you wake up, your only objective is to down a couple sips of that coffee and set it down, okay? At the end of the day, even if you're sitting there like, oh, I don't want to do it because of 1,000 emotions, your body is still technically kind of awake. You've forced it to start moving and start working, so it can't go back into rest state, which should help you the next night on actually going to sleep at a functional time. But I know, even when you're crazy tired, you still can't go to sleep. Again, like I said, I could be on like 3 hours of sleep and I can't quiet down my mind. My mind still fires, my brain still worries. It just constantly goes. We'll get into that. But I'm not done having fun yet. I want to talk to you more. We got a lot of time. Honestly, what do you do? We go to sleep? Anyways, and also I want to make it so that you can sleep forever and not just for tonight, okay? Also, this information is kind of shitty because you can't utilize it right now. There will be information that you can use to get to sleep. Cool. So let's go through one of the wonderful, but also like just maddening things about sleep, which I love because I was so desperate, man. I did everything. I tried out all of it. So one of the things that's hilarious to me, and just the idea of it, is ambient music, and specifically music that can help you sleep. Music that just unravels your chakra and quiets the beast of your mind. Is hilarious, and also it speaks to an issue that everybody has, which is an issue that most people look at their mind and the crazy thoughts within their head as this beast that needs to be quelled by this wonderful sonnet of music and wonder and calmness and serenity, to try to quill the beast for just a second so that you can go to sleep and rest. But the thing that is hilarious is that you are the beast. You have control over this crazy dragon, lion, or whatever mythological monster you want to associate with the terror you're giving it. But yes, you have control. And yes, music can be very helpful. I'm not trying to drag ambient music. It helps. But it doesn't solve the problem. What happens if that beast is very, very hungry? What happens if that beast has heard the sound maybe like 10 times? What then? the beast is going to be mad and it's not going to work anymore. And it's just going to add to the frustration of you not being able to get the result that you want. I can talk about this firsthand experience. I have like a folder filled to the absolute maximum amount almost with ambient music. Different channels, different weird music that I thought, oh, this is it. This is the perfect degree of sound to just have me go to sleep. There is a fundamental problem with this idea. So ambient music works to a point, like I said, but then there's a diminishing return ability of it, because what ambient music is trying to do is keep you aware but not stimulated. But the problem with that is you do need to have either like something to come back to, or else you will hard focus onto that ambient music. So for me, the ambient music that I liked was soft, didn't have any intrusive like beat, but had something to where I could narrow in on. And we'll get to why that kind of works within the foundation of your mind. So ambient music helps with one thing, and we can kind of boil this down and make this easier to understand. So ambient music helps with this problem that you're having, which is called attention, okay? So this allows your brain that's constantly working, constantly spinning, to focus in on one thing. And sometimes you will analyze that thing. So this is good that you're achieving this one result of you having your attention on something. It's very helpful. But the problem is that your brain is not trained to stop analyzing what your attention's on. So eventually, you'll learn the specific minutia, or it'll become not even near as interesting. It'll become basically like nothingness. And your brain will look for anything else to focus on, and then you'll have random thoughts, then you'll have your stresses that you're looking out and stopping you from relaxing come back and rear its head. So there's this main thing that we're trying to address here with your mind, this beast, is basically your attention, and to some extent maybe stress and worry, which we'll also get into. But largely, ambient music can help because it focuses your attention, but the problem is it doesn't solve the specific problem of boredom. Your attention, you'll find ways to make things interesting. Your imagination will feed even the smallest, tiniest bit of flame that you're giving it. So ambient music, it becomes, at first, just interesting enough to keep your attention, but then eventually devolves into you throwing things at it. You'll have an idea, you'll have a thought, you'll have something that kind of keeps feeding it because you're not helping or mastering this ability of yours, which is attention. So yes, that is the thing that ambient music does help. It does work to some extent, but it works until it doesn't, and doesn't solve the initial problem. So I love ambient music, big old fan. But understand what it's helping you with, which is your attention. So it's giving you something to focus on. So then it becomes, well, what is the best thing to focus on for sleep? Eventually your mind will try to make something happen, especially if you're not tired. Or if you're just born with a brain that's constantly going, or a brain that has stresses and things to worry about, it will throw something into that loop constantly, okay? But let us talk about the big pooba, the thing that I think a lot of people are on, and it's very, very tempting, because it's a very easy gift. And that, my friends, is sleeping pills. The very thing that can quiet the beast. Why mess with ambient music when you can just trank the dragon and knock him unconscious? Well, because they don't work. Or they do, similar to ambient music, they work until they don't. And they will eventually stop working, usually. And if they don't, then you're on some really hard stuff and you're conditioning your body to actually have a harder time sleeping and getting of a higher quality rest. Now, at least maybe in the future, they develop something that's super good, gets you the most amount of sleep, but oftentimes what the sleeping pills that you're using is it just overloads your brain with melatonin. Now, there are other various things that are out there, and melatonin is not bad. Again, I think sleeping pills have a place in your whole existence of trying to get rest. But what melatonin does is it hyperproduces a chemical that your body is supposed to be producing. Now, the problem with this, and this is from my own experience, stop talking generally, I'll talk from my own experience. I was so happy when I found that there was a pill that could get me to knock me out, give me finally some respite. But the problem is as soon as 2 days went by, I purified that from my system. My brain, I found it harder to sleep at the end of the 2 days, and the 2 days, my body basically got good at like not feeling the effect of melatonin because I was giving it a lot. It kind of just, it slowed down its production of melatonin. So when you give your body an abundance of a resource that it produces, it will stop producing that resource heavily if it constantly is in your system. Now, if you use it sporadically, whenever you need to kind of figure things out again, that works. Because your body doesn't have enough time to really adapt heavily. Now, some people might be blessed with their body's ability to not purify or like flush or stop producing the amount of melatonin. That could totally happen. But here's the problem, is your body still flushes melatonin, but not very quickly. So it's still in your system when it shouldn't be. So when you wake up, a lot of people talk about being groggy after they have melatonin, even like in the middle of the day when they had it all the way at night. So in the middle of the day, they'll feel really groggy because you've basically flushed a bunch of synthetic melatonin within your brain, which is helpful because you can get to sleep. But if it is of such high quantity that it stays within your system well before your body can purify it out of it, then you're just kind of being more tired throughout the end of the day, being less efficient. And your body's trying to induce sleep because you have such a high quantity of melatonin in your body that it makes you kind of useless, sleepy, groggy, way in the middle of the day, basically, because eventually when you get to sleep, it's finished. It's finally finished purifying all that stuff out of your body, and now, but also it's getting better at that whole process, specifically in the sense that it will not work anymore. So it's kind of a weird snake eating its own tail, where like the first couple days, you'll probably be good, but you'll probably feel groggy in the middle of the day because your body's trying to figure out what to do with the melatonin that you're giving it. But then the second part of it will be that your body gets really efficient. Again, we talked about how magical the body is. It can adapt and it can shift what you're giving it. So it will just constantly flush the share of the melatonin, will not provide any melatonin because it's expecting to get it. And then there's the like, okay, well, what if I give myself even more melatonin? But then your body can only purify a certain amount. So it's basically a bad idea. I think melatonin has a place, but I think it's not a good solution to help you actually get rest. Also, there's a bunch of studies that talk about the efficiency of sleep and how sleeping pills can actually, in some way, well, certainly they destabilize your sleep pattern, but secondly, they're kind of a fix for a problem that you should try to fix yourself. Even though I know it's hard and it's going to take time, it's shitty, but there are ways to do that, which we'll get into finally. Sorry to bait it out so long. I just think these are all things I've experienced, been drawn to, and they work if done properly. Okay, one more myth, and then we'll finally get into what you can actually do, but this is also relevant. So there's a lot of things out there about coffee. Coffee, pretty awesome, pretty huge. It's how a lot of insomniacs can even exist, okay? I'm not telling you not to have coffee. Calm down, okay? We're gonna be okay. I got you. Relax. But if you're having problems sleeping and you have neglected one of the things I've mentioned, you cannot say, well, fuck it. I'm just hopeless and I can never get sleep. No. You got to do all of it, and then you can finally say, I'm just broken. But until then, you're probably cracked, maybe a little offset, but not entirely broken. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to stop drinking coffee at 5 p.m. Or halfway throughout the day. Your body takes a good bit of time to purify itself, but yeah, also a lot of people say that you like drinking coffee in general is completely bad because it takes you still have an amount of coffee still within your system. But a lot of the studies that I've looked at, if you look at the actual studies, people still get good sleep with the 15 or 30% of coffee within their body. It's when it kind of gets to a certain higher degree that it starts becoming harder to your body to actually adapt to and manage. But largely, you will see a massive result if you stop drinking coffee around 5 to 6 p.m. If you go to sleep at 10 p.m., of course. You want around like 5 or 4 hours to let your body completely try to release a good bit of that before you get to sleep. So yeah, that's just something to quickly talk about. Again, not trying to take away your coffee, just saying that if you could try to get all of your coffee in before 5. Also, there is a degree of the amount of caffeine you can have. I believe it's 3 to 4 cups, or I think 3 cups, 2 to 3 cups, I think. 2 to 3 cups of coffee should be where you probably stop. So yeah, if you don't drink that much, good. If you do drink that much, try to tailor it back. But there is also something to say about this, which is for some people, it's different. Some people can drink coffee and their body just flushes it. Like the tip about drinking a cup of coffee before to get yourself to wake up, for some of you, could do nothing. Because some people literally don't get excited or focused or amplified by coffee in any way, and they get tired. There are other people who drink the slightest bit of caffeine, like caffeine with tea in it, and they're just cooked. They're just cooking for the rest of the day. They're just gunning it constantly, and it's really hard for them to sleep. Understand yourself and adapt to what you are dealing with. I don't know what your body is, but you do. Understand what your limitations are and facilitate them so that you can actually grow and improve. Okay, so now we're going to actually get into what I would suggest that you do. Okay, and this will make, hopefully, given how long and how consistently you do it, make a difference. So, let's talk about your bed, okay? So, again, we talked about ambient music helping with something called attention, like your ability to focus on things, and honestly, that's what a lot of the problem is. Your attention cannot shut down. We'll talk about how to fix that in general. Your bed is an environment, and human beings are able to adapt specifically to what an environment is supposed to do. So one of the things that I would try, the like overarching thing, is to go to bed tired. Okay, that's one of the biggest things. Now, how do you go to bed tired? I've heard from some studies that I've seen where people say you should go to sleep and you should not look at your phone or any sort of media for 2 hours before you go to sleep, and then you'll be just knocked unconscious. Doesn't work and is awful. It's nightmarish. And also, you do not need that. It is the quality of boredom, not the duration of boredom, although it can help. But it is the quality of the boredom and being tired in a moment that can help you when resting. Alright? So you can watch a bunch of videos, you can watch some crazy stimulating stuff. It does not matter, okay? What does matter is that you go into bed whilst you are bored. Alright? All I'm asking is for like 5 to 10 minutes of your time. So then there begs the question, how does one become bored? When we sleep, we also need to drop our guard. Or drop our attention, but mainly drop our guard. So what I would advise you guys is to not go to sleep. Some people would suggest like you shut down, make sure your room is pitch black, just completely cut out everything, and that will help you sleep. I have found no luck in this. I found the opposite effect. In a room that's completely dark, not only am I when I open my eyes, am I still trapped in the crazy like thoughts gunning it in my head. Also, it was miserable. Like you were sitting there and you're like, I feel like I can't see anything. I'm a little like uncomfortable with the idea that I can't see anything. I feel like a little bit vulnerable. So, solve those problems. How do you feel bored but still not vulnerable? You want to feel relaxed, at peace, but not vulnerable. So, what I would suggest you guys is before you go to sleep, pick anything that you have seen maybe once or twice before. Something where if you open your eyes and you look to it, you'll feel comforted. You'll feel like if you had a nightmare, if you had some sort of crazy intrusive thought, you'll be able to look over there and get a North Star, a respite, and then you can go back to sleep. That's wonderful, but it cannot be something that's stimulating, okay? So that's the kind of, that's the thing to help you find your North Star, it can't be stimulating, but it has to be comforting, okay? Comforting, not stimulating. If it's stimulating, you're releasing dopamine within the brain and associating your bed with like mentally thinking and associating and all these things, okay? Your brain will adapt, your body's incredible, it will find a way to make that consistently happen. Stop it from happening. Comfort, not interest, all right? Cool. So find a video. Personally, what I do, I have a lot of people who do like long form live stream gaming content. And I usually just put on an old live stream that I've seen a couple times, and then I just have that in the background. The second thing I would ask you to do is, because we're not trying to be super engaged and connected to that video, I would suggest dropping the audio to almost like super low, to where if you wanted to like focus and listen, you might be able to pick up what's going on and what's being said. But largely, again, we're trying to incite boredom and we're trying to relax the brain. But also to be comforted by this thing. Because again, when you open your eyes, maybe you've had a horrible childhood, maybe you've seen a scary movie, whatever it could be, something that makes you anxious is the opposite of relaxation and rest and comfort. So again, this is a great way to combat attention or to incite boredom, is to have something that is comforting but not interesting. The second thing I would highly advise that you do, I think we kind of mentioned it maybe, depending on how I mix and mash all of these together, forgive me if it's a little scattered, but your bed, try to avoid seeing anything interesting in your bed, okay? So this is the huge thing. I'm not saying you cannot watch media, you cannot look at memes, you cannot do anything. I'm just saying don't enter your bed until you're done. Okay, you can stay up till 1 a.m. for all I care, looking at a thing. What we're trying to solve is your brain associating this with dopamine and entertainment release. Because when you're in it, your brain will immediately get ready to do the thing that you're conditioning it to do. Your brain's incredible. We'll talk about that as many times as you can. Your brain's incredible. It will start to associate that place with dopamine release and all that stuff. Whereas if you only go to that place when you are thoroughly done for the day, you're bored, you're ready just to stop, you're ready for it to all just calm down, you'll enter that, and then you'll put the blanket on, and then you'll do the thing we're going to suggest you do, and you'll be out. But if you start to look at your phone a bunch, or like watch an interesting video to your left, or like eat snacks or whatever, you're training your brain to have those responses, to be hungry when you're in the sleep, or when you're in the bed, to need to see something stimulating, because that's what we need to do, or else we'll get anxious. You don't want that. That's why I suggest watching something that's really you've seen 1,000 times, that gives you some sort of comfort, but that you can't really lock in on and focus on. Similar to ambient music, you don't want to listen to it really loud, because that will kind of block out everything, and that's too much, and it'll be noisy and it'll be hard to sleep. The funniest thing about ambient music that I forgot to mention, though, is that ambient music is anything that you've heard consistently that incites boredom, because that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to take your attention and make you bored, which is hilarious, because for me, what I think works just as well as ambient music for me is like a rock and roll, hard, like loud as hell percussion, thing that I've heard a lot of times, because my brain has heard it so many times that it becomes like, oh yeah, this is familiar, comforting, but not quite like interesting, even though it's high percussion, constant hitting. It's hilarious how that works, because again, the goal is boredom, and who's to say that a rock and roll song that you've heard 1,000 times doesn't bring you comfort, and also is kind of boring because you've heard it so many times, right? So anyways, that's something to consider about ambient music too. I might squeeze this part into there, given how much I want to edit. Anyways, but back to what we were talking about. Again, do not enter your bed until you are tired. So having the video there is comforting. So we've now set up a stage where we have something that if we open our eyes, we could look and be comforted by it. We're not sitting in the craziness of our mind, because sometimes you can have a really intrusive, horrible thought. And if you open your eyes and you're just seeing a bunch of darkness, you're going to be stuck with that thought still. To whereas if you open your eyes and you can look somewhere and be like, okay, we're okay, calm down, we're okay, all right, now I'm bringing myself back down, that's something helpful. And that caters to your experience of having a nice, relaxing time sleeping. Now you're feeling comforted, you're feeling kind of bored, but not quite too bored. So here's the thing I would tell you to do before you have that video primed and ready to go. Okay, it's unfortunately time, my friends. This is gonna require some talk. Okay, so I've kind of been telling you in some ways the reason, the purpose for why things are the way they are. But here I'm gonna tell you exactly what you need to do to, in my experience, actually sleep. And one of the core fundamental things is what we're gonna talk about now. So we talked about attention, we talked about like focus, boredom. One of the things we kind of neglected, but kind of also communicated subconsciously while we talk about this, is things like stress, and essentially the beast within your mind. And we talked about various reasons of how people try to emulate soothing the said beast and all of these things. But at the end of the day, you have a mind, and it constantly is going. And it's constantly having to adapt, evolve, and survive. So we have mechanisms in our brain which are obvious, but they're like how to survive. If you have something stressful that is somehow you associate with worry or survival or longevity or whatever, your brain will try to induce a solution to that end. The only problem is that a lot of people's problems are actually not as valuable as getting sleep, and you'll be able to address your problems with greater ease with sleep. So I, after my entire years of this stupid, annoying battle with rest and sleep, I have found one thing that has made a huge difference, like a monumentous difference. And I don't think I would have been able to get up at the same time every day like I showed you for a month straight, essentially, if I didn't do this. And this actually helps you soothe your mind, okay? Some of you are gonna have an adverse reaction to it, okay? I would highly, highly advise you guys go to Netflix or consume this TV series in any way that you can. I'm not being paid by anybody. This is just a really valuable tool set to have. This series on Netflix, which I hope you can get. If you can't, find a way to get it and watch it. At least the first couple episodes I think are the most valuable. But this is Netflix's Headspace Guide to Mindfulness Meditation. Some people think meditation is just a bunch of wish-wash. And honestly, I always thought it was kind of cool. I never was able to do it. I always thought it was incredibly hard, and I didn't really understand the idea of why would I want to stop thinking. Isn't thinking what makes us human and what makes us adapt and all of these things. But it's simply, you're looking at it like a wrong thing. Your brain is a muscle constantly going. If you're constantly contracting your muscle, your brain is going to be super atrophied, super sore, and even less efficient at doing what you need it to do. So what this series does, this series basically, in my experience, helps you run through a mental kind of system and also use amazing visual elements. Like, that's the reason why I'm trying to tell you to watch it, and I'm going to do my best to explain it, but the series does an amazing job of it actually mapping out things. Now, do not be fooled. I should mention this. Headspace also has a guide to sleep. I think Headspace's Netflix's Headspace Guide to Sleep is actually, the info part of it is awesome. The sleep guide is terrible. It's awful because it doesn't help you actually deal with the problems of boredom and attention. It kind of stimulates you too much and not enough at the same time. It's kind of all over the place. I don't think it helps. And also I think it's bad in many other ways. But I do think that after you do the mindfulness meditation, the one that's like, I think it's like 5 to 10 minutes. I don't even think it's that long, honestly. So we're kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves. What does this Netflix series talk about? What is mindfulness meditation? Well, essentially, it's what we've been talking about. It's your attention. Specifically, letting you control your attention or focus it in a way that allows your brain to finally relax, to not contract that muscle anymore. And to do it in a way that actually maps it out and makes sense. It isn't just like, you gotta release your 6th chakra, dude, and get like, and sit on top of a mountain and like breathe in this herb or something. It's like nonsense. Like, a lot of the meditation stuff is ruined by guru nonsense, crazy people. But this mindfulness meditation one, is actually incredibly good because of the utility and the tools that it actually gives you to think about the way your thoughts are, to think about how your stresses are. One of the best toolkits that it gives you, which I think is amazing, is to think of your thoughts as if you're sitting on the side of a road with a bunch of cars going back and forth. Now, the goal is to sit in this chair and to just observe your thoughts from afar. They'll kind of pass by you, constantly in motion. Sometimes you'll have days where there's a lot of traffic, other days you'll have not so much. But what people do, they tend to see a car, and for whatever reason, they'll chase after it. They'll see this thought, and they'll chase after it and try to gun it down and try to figure it out and get trapped by it and get lost in it. But the goal is to sit in that chair and watch the car just pass on by. Now, that's all good and easy when you're sitting in a chair feeling comforted by it, but what is your chair? Well, your chair can be a lot of things. The show talks about, the TV series thing talks about how you could hear an audible sound within your room. A lot of people have like a white noise, static noise maker within your room. Some people have again, they listen to a TV series or like a series that they've seen a lot of times. It's boring, comforting, but not entertaining or interesting, as to not release dopamine and get excited and all these things. So a lot of people have 1,000 ways to crack this egg. But the one that I personally like, and the one that Headspace talks about, is focus on the feeling of breathing. Okay, not breathing itself, but the feeling of your lungs expanding, even the slightest thing. You don't need to go like to like feel your breath. You could be moving, like your chest could be basically almost still, and you could still feel your lung go. And you could hear that, and not, you could feel that. Sorry, not hear that, feel that. And that is your chair. Okay? So your breath is your chair. When you start to feel like you're seeing a thought and you're starting to chase it, remember, I'm supposed to be on the chair. So then you'll focus back onto your breathing, focusing on the feeling of your lungs expanding slightly, effortlessly, soothingly. And before you do that, what's really helpful is to do 3 slow breaths. So every time you breathe in, and then go again. But what you're doing when you're doing that, when you're exhaling slowly, you're limiting oxygen to the heart, and you're telling your body oxygen essentially to relax. So relax your body, release, calm down. If I could throw one tip in there, if you could, aim to breathe from the lowest part of your lung or stomach, or diaphragm is what people call it. Diaphragmatic breathing. So it's almost like when you ate a big supper and your gut's hanging out, you're trying to simulate that big old gut to kind of be like, oh. So you're supposed to breathe at the bottom, and the next thing you don't want to go and do that, because that's usually that breeds anxiety in the chest, or at least that's what certain things people say. But yes, I know. A lot of people are going to have some abrasiveness to meditation, thinking it's all a bunch of woo-woo, and I get it. I get it. I know a lot of people are psychos, or just manipulators, or maybe something truly worked for them, and they listened to this guy that gave them a part of this cure, and they listened to all the other stuff around that cure, and now they're just propagating all of it. Who knows? I don't know. If you get a value from something, I'm not here to judge it. Live your life, try to improve, and succeed as much as you possibly can. What I am saying is this was incredible for me. Specifically 3 things. Go to bed tired, which by doing the 10-minute mindfulness meditation, which is on episode 1, I found I was super relaxed, super serene, super calm. My brain, I knew how to deal with the massive amount of thoughts, worries, and imaginative chaos going on in my brain. So if you're a person that's like that, it's, again, you see a stressful encounter. Oh my God, my job, what am I going to do? Oh my God, I have this project to work on. Oh my God, Christmas is coming up. Holy shit, what am I going to buy for this person? You're going to constantly see those thoughts go by, but your job is just see them, know that you're having them. If you want, you can label them thoughts about Christmas, thoughts about work, whatever, like whatever kind of thing. Just do that, and then they're gone. Because if you do that, they're easier to let go of. But the point is if you ever start following, like you're like, oh shit, I'm really going down and tracking this car, remember, you need to get back to the chair, which is to focus back on whatever your anchor is. It could be your breathing, it could be whatever, doesn't matter. It's just something that you can focus on that is not something that is stimulating or entertaining, but something that is comforting and something that you can control. Because if you have a bunch of sporadic kind of like things, it wouldn't work. So again, if you're like focusing on a movie, it works if you've seen the movie 1,000 times and you already know what to expect, so your brain's not being stimulated by it. Does that make sense? And again, you can get to this point by just doing this 8-minute thing. So you can watch a bunch, you can play a video game, you can gun it, you can watch a bunch of YouTube videos, etc. As long as you genuinely try to do this meditation thing, this 5-minute just cool down. It's on Netflix, it's free. If you have Netflix, sorry, it's not free, but it's on Netflix. And if you don't have Netflix, it's really simple. I'll guide you through it right now just to kind of give you a quick upper hand about it, okay? How you do it is really simple. First, take 3 deep breaths in, okay? And make them as slow as you can. Not super slow. You're not trying to you're just trying to. And then if you want, you could close your eyes. I would suggest closing your eyes. It helps for me. So you close your eyes when you get to the 3rd breath. You don't stop breathing, but now you stop controlling your breath and you just kind of let it be. And you try to focus your attention on, again, the feeling of breath, the feeling of your lungs expanding and closing, over and over again. So the next thing is you want to feel the feeling of impact on the chair that you're sitting on, the feeling of impact on your feet if you're standing, whatever, the contact with whatever surface your body is colliding with, all right? You want to focus on that, feel that weight. And the next thing, after you've done those things, you've focused on your breathing, you focused on the feeling of your lungs expanding, you focus on the feeling of contact with whatever you're contacting with. So after you've done all those 3, you should be pretty connected with the self, the body itself, connected to how you feel, what you're feeling, the internal mechanisms at play, right? Now, just take a moment to experience that feeling of stopping, of calming down, of everything coming to a nice, quiet calm. Okay, this is your moment. Enjoy it. And now, I would like you to imagine that you're in that chair. That you're in that chair on the highway, looking at a bunch of cars just passing by. You're safe, you're far enough away, you're good. You got a barrier to protect you, all that good stuff. But you're just seeing these cars pass by, to and from. And those are whatever thoughts you have. But again, the goal is to not think about your work. The goal is to just quiet your mind, relax your brain. And when you start to feel like that's not happening, you come back to the feeling of your breath, the feeling of your lungs expanding and compressing. Again, you're not trying to make them fill with oxygen. You're not trying to close them really quickly. You're just letting yourself breathe and feeling on that moment. That's it. In oxygen, out oxygen. And then you just sit there observing for as long as you need. And if you do this for like 5 minutes, you just sit there and try to and you'll get better at this over time. Some people might be like, wow, my brain's crazy. If you do this, you'll develop a skill for it. I promise you, it becomes really easy. And eventually, and this is my experience, you literally can feel. Hi, by the way, we're back. Hi. You can literally feel your brain unravel, and completely kind of sit there and relax. Now, sometimes this only lasts like 3 seconds. Other times, this lasts 15 seconds, and it's blissful. It's like crazy how amazing this feels to finally feel your brain go, oh, we're kind of running out of time, but hopefully that explains the whole mindfulness thing. Again, just watch the series. It's very well done. It's got like animation things so that you can see everything. It feels like your time flies by when you watch it kind of thing because it's really well done. Not sponsored, just think it's great and it helped me out so much. So to go through the list of exactly what I think you should do before you go to bed, find a video to queue up that's comforting but not interesting. All right, get it primed, get it ready. Then go over to that Netflix Headspace thing, queue it up. I watched the first episode one because I find it's the best for what I need. And then you're going to want to watch it, be relaxed. Again, it's the quality of boredom, which that will give you relaxation, boredom, whatever. It'll help you also train at focusing your attention in a specific kind of way. Then I would like you also, by the way, to not go into bed and do that. Again, one of the things you're going to be tempted to do is sit in bed and do it in bed. I would suggest not doing it because I would just like for you to associate your bed with as soon as, like, you can do anything in your whole room. Anything. Whole room. Living room. Whatever. Just keep your bed sacred. Keep your bed sacred for just sleeping, okay? Again, I don't care if you gotta sit on the floor right beside your bed and watch it. Do that, okay? Just keep your bed, because your brain will start to associate shit, right? We're trying to stack the deck so it's hard to fail and easy to succeed. So anyways, you're going to watch that Headspace thing. You're going to become super bored, relaxed, all that stuff. And you're also going to, again, train. And then, all I would suggest, you queue up the video that you have going. Again, you don't want it loud enough to where you can hear it, and you don't want to choose something super stimulating or interesting. You just want to have something that's comforting, something that you've seen before, something that if you open your eyes, you can have a North Star and see. Then you want to get into bed, and then you're going to want to focus on the very same thing you were just doing if things get a little chaotic, okay? You want to focus on the same thing. 3 deep breaths, okay? Then you can focus on the contact of your body with the bed, okay? Then you're going to focus back on the feeling of your breathing, all right? And that can take you far. And again, it's okay to think. What's not okay is to jump and chase those thoughts. So you're just trying to sit on that chair and relax. Get the same feeling of just let your mind unravel, relax, calm down, and you'll be out. All right. Also, just some things on top. One of the things I did say that like sleeping pills have a place. I do think sleeping pills can have a place if, for instance, you drink coffee like at 8 because you were out with friends and life got away from you and you're like, oh shit, I had coffee and all these things. I would highly advise that's when you probably could take a sleeping pill just to kind of, because your brain is, because you had coffee, will probably not make that much melatonin. So by inducing the consumption of melatonin will get your body to understand what you're trying to simulate. So that can work. Also, if you're like jet lagged again, you can course correct and help in that way as long as you understand that the mechanisms at play, or like you're conditioning your body to have an abundance of melatonin. So if you consistently do this, it will stop making melatonin, making it harder to sleep, and also making it so that you need more melatonin, and ultimately being the downfall of your sleep being consistent. So that is to me the systems that I have at my disposal to weaponize you to achieve sleep. From an insomniac, a person who is always relentlessly hard to sleep. Again, wake up at the same time every day. Doesn't matter when you go to sleep. It does, but your body will self-correct if you wake up at the same time every single day. You'll have some days where you're tired, but at least you'll get back on track relatively easily. With just another thing about the whole getting up at the same time every day, it will take, given who you are, I'm a night person for sure, but so like it was hard for me at the start to become a morning person. But it is possible, but for me it took 30 days. For you it could take a week, for you it could take 3 months, I don't know. But the point is that you're trying to wake up at the same time every day. Again, super helpful. Anyways, the second thing is to understand the mechanisms of why you're having trouble sleeping, which is attention essentially. The bottom line is where your attention is focused. One of the things that helped me immensely is that Netflix mindfulness meditation thing. Again, allowing you to train and focus your attention in a specific helpful way. Specifically, the first episode was great. And then also to go to sleep bored, and also to watch something that's comforting and not interesting. Because again, if it's interesting, it's stimulating, and if it's stimulating, it's giving your brain dopamine and constantly giving you thoughts. But you do want to have something that is enough to where you feel comforted by it. Again, if you open your eyes and you're covered in darkness and you just had a bad dream or an intrusive thought, and you're basically stuck in that loop, cannot be very helpful and can give you anxiety and make it even harder to get to sleep, to take away all of the boredom and relaxation that you gained from, hopefully, before you got into bed, doing the mindfulness meditation thing and inducing boredom. And then when you're in bed, and you don't just hit the ground running because you're super tired, you're going to need to control your attention, or to make, it's not even about control. Saying control your attention feels wrong. Again, you're just focusing on the feeling of breath. That's it. And knowing that it's okay to have thoughts, but just not to chase them. That's it. That's all it is. And then doing that over and over again, your brain will get bored, more relaxed, and if you're in a comforted environment, you'll just drop. And that's that. Again, there's a place for some sleeping pills every now and again, but just do not condition your body to need them. You can have them every now and again to get yourself back on track, but I would highly advise not to consistently take them, because your body will just get good at purifying them out of your body. Anyways, my fellow insomniac brother or sister, hopefully this helps. Again, I will say one last thing. Try some of these, if not all of these. At the end of the day, if you haven't tried one of them, because I know some people could be abrasive to the meditation, some people could be abrasive about the coffee thing. They're like, I can kick off coffee. Some people could be abrasive to waking up at the same time every day. Some people could have their thing. Try it all, and only then can you say, I can't sleep, or I'm truly an insomniac. All right. Also, it's not something you want to be. You don't want to be an insomniac. Also, even like I would consider myself to be quite the insomniac. I still found a way. All right. It's hard, but again, I made it hard to fail and easier to succeed. And I would highly advise you do that as well. And if you're half asleep, frustrated that you can't go to sleep, highly advise the mindfulness meditation thing. Helped me so much. Especially with the chaos of my mind, and will help you with the chaos of your mind too. If it's stress, whatever, they're just thoughts, they're just things, they're not, you don't need to chase any of them. You can see them, but you don't need to chase any of them. You always have your breath, unless you don't, because COVID sometimes takes that from you. Anyways, regardless, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you guys do enjoy the rest of your day. We make content on this channel that is not this, but every now and again I feel like, hell, this is a journey that I went on, and if I could make someone have less of that journey, I would consider myself to be quite lucky if I had this. And I would have wished I had it earlier, because there was so many misconceptions or myths. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. My name is GRINN, and I hope dearly with every fiber of my being that you can get some rest. And I hope, even though I know the first couple tips were not the greatest for people who needing to get sleep right now, well, I hope that mindfulness meditation thing can do you wonders. But know that all of this takes time. Consistency over time develops skill. Okay? Sleeping is a skill. Attention is a skill. Thank you for your time. Wish you the best night's sleep you can possibly get, and goodbye.